February 16th, 1943, 10,000 feet above Bougainville, Solomon Islands. The early morning sky is split by engine thunder. Sunlight flickers off the rippling Pacific far below. In the vast blue dome overhead, a formation of 4 gull-winged aircraft tears through the air. Vought F-4U Corsairs of Marine Fighting Squadron 124. New arrivals. Their dark blue paint still gleams, unmarred by the soot and salt of prolonged battle. Inside the cockpit of the lead plane, First Lieutenant Kenneth Walsh grips the control stick with steady hands. 24 years old, Brooklyn-born, quiet, determined. The kind of man who keeps his head down in the mess hall, but becomes pure steel in the sky. The Corsair he's flying, number 883, is still unfamiliar. Only a few weeks ago, he was flying Wildcats. Now, this beast is his charge. Faster, heavier, and less forgiving. The Pacific Air War is changing. Gone are the days when Zeros ruled the skies with unmatched agility. The Marines and Navy need something more brutal, more powerful. The Corsair promises to be that thing, if it works. But there's a catch. Walsh's landing gear groans as it retracts. Every pilot in the squadron has felt it. The Corsair's long nose makes it nearly impossible to see the deck on approach. Its bounce on touchdown has already crushed several airframes and twisted more ankles. Word spreads fast in fighter-ready rooms. The Navy has already pulled it from carrier service. Widowmaker, some call it. Hog, say others, for its snout-like design. Japanese pilots, however, have a different name, the Joke. They watch with amusement as Corsairs struggle to land, tumble off flight decks, or get ferried in pieces to repair ships. To them, it's a clumsy brute, not a real dogfighter. But here, in the sky above Bougainville, there are no decks to land on, only enemy aircraft to kill. Walsh scans the horizon. His squadron is escorting a group of SBD Dauntless dive bombers bound for a Japanese supply barge cluster near the coast. Their path will take them through Zero-controlled airspace. The flak will come later. Right now, they're expecting fighters. A crackle comes over the radio. Bandits, 3 o'clock low, 10 plus. Walsh doesn't hesitate. He angles his Corsair downward, opening the throttle. The massive Pratt & Whitney R2800 Double Wasp roars to life, pulling the aircraft into a dive at over 3 mph. The cockpit rattles. The airframe groans. But the Hog stays on course. Below, a swarm of Mitsubishi A6M0s is climbing fast. Painted in faded green with red Hinomaris flashing on their wings, they spot the descending Corsairs and react instantly. The enemy pilots split into pairs, classic tandem tactics. One climbs to drag, the other flanks to kill. Walsh picks his target, a Zero banking left. He yanks the stick, the Corsair's powerful ailerons responding with surprising grace. He pulls into firing position. The Zero tries to outturn him, but this isn't a Wildcat. The Corsair holds energy better in the dive, its wings cutting the air with murderous precision. Walsh squeezes the trigger. 650 caliber Browning machine guns spit death. The tracers chew through the Zero's wing root. The Japanese pilot has no time to react. His aircraft bursts into flame and spins toward the ocean. One kill. The Joke just punched back. Behind him, the sky erupts into chaos. Tracers slash the air. Zeros swarm like wasps. Another Corsair takes hits, smoke trailing from its cowl, but it holds. A second Zero tries to latch onto Walsh's tail, but he rolls sharply, dropping flaps and bleeding speed. The enemy overshoots. Rookie mistake. Walsh levels out, hammers the throttle, and brings the enemy fighter into his gun sight. Another burst. The Zero's canopy explodes, and the pilot slumps forward. 2. On the Japanese radios, panic starts to rise. The clumsy American fighter isn't bleeding, it's biting. Back at Henderson Field, Guadalcanal, the smell of fuel, rubber, and scorched oil hangs thick in the humid air. Mechanics crawl over the battered Corsairs like surgeons on a trauma ward, patching bullet holes, replacing spark plugs, and wiping down the carbon black residue left from today's brutal dogfight. Corsair 883 sits near the revetment, its guns still warm, kill marks hastily chalked below the canopy. Kenneth Walsh climbs down from the cockpit, sweat soaking through his flight suit. His face is unreadable, but his silence is not indifference. It's calculation. The Corsair had done what the brass promised. It outran the Zeros, outclimbed them, outfought them, but it still landed like a freight train with a broken axle. Still floats like a crowbar, one mechanic mutters, watching a fellow pilot limp away with a twisted knee from a rough landing. That's the Corsair's curse. Engineers at Vought had designed it as a purebred killer. The R2800 engine gave it over 2,000 horsepower, enough to push it past 400 mph in level flight, making it the fastest single-engine fighter in the American arsenal. Its inverted gull wings weren't just stylish. They allowed for shorter, stronger landing gear and provided clearance for the massive propeller. But that speed came at a price. Its long nose blocked visibility during landings. It bounced like a rubber ball on carrier decks. It stalled unexpectedly at low speeds. It broke bones. And in 1942, that was enough for the Navy to declare it unfit for carrier ops. So the Corsair was exiled to the Marine Corps. And that's when everything changed. In the hands of Marine pilots flying from rough jungle airstrips, the Corsair found freedom. No more bouncing off steel decks. No more hydraulic arrestor failures. No more second-guessing landings while Zeros circled like sharks. Here, it could fight. VMF 124 became the first Corsair unit to see action in February 1943. Others followed. By mid-1943, the whistling, death, as it came to be known among the Japanese, had transformed into a dominant force over the Solomons. It wasn't just the speed or the firepower, it was the survivability. Where Zeros crumpled under a single burst, Corsairs took hits and limped home. Walsh had landed twice on a single engine. Once, he glided over 6 miles after a flak blast punched through his oil line. He made it back. The Zero pilot who shot him didn't. In the mess tents, stories spread fast. Corsair took 20 hits and still landed. 2 Zeros tried to double-team a Corsair. Neither came back. 5 kills, 1 mission. That Marine with the Brooklyn accent. The Japanese didn't laugh anymore. In Tokyo, intelligence officers updated their pilot training briefings. F4U, do not engage at altitude. Avoid diving pursuits. Use low-speed turning advantage only if Corsair is isolated. It wasn't much. Even with superior turning radius at low speeds, the Zero couldn't compete in speed, firepower, or dive recovery. The Corsair dictated when to fight and when to run. And when it fought, it killed. Back in the Solomons, 2nd Lieutenant Roger Tex Carlton, a Corsair pilot from Waco, Texas, put it plainly over coffee. You give me 6 guns, a clear sky, and 2,000 horses under the hood. I'll fly through hell and shoot the devil himself. The Corsair gave pilots like Carlton, Walsh, and Boyington the tool they needed to reshape the Pacific Air War. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't pretty. But it worked. And when the landings were finally mastered, when Marines learned to crab the Corsair, in on final, ease into a stall, and kiss the ground with a tail-first kiss, it became more than a weapon. It became the hammer of the Pacific. September 18th, 1943. Kahili Airfield, Bougainville. Black smoke coils over the wreckage of burned-out hangars. The Japanese stronghold at Kahili has been under near-constant air attack for 2 weeks. Runways cratered, fuel dumps torched. Anti-aircraft guns stand half-melted, their crews buried beneath mud and shrapnel. And yet, every morning, the enemy sends more fighters into the sky, Zeros, D-3As, and even a few rare J-1N night fighters. But today is different. High over the jungle-covered ridges, the drone of radial engines signals the approach of VMF-214, Black Sheep Squadron. Led by the unpredictable and lethal Major Gregory Pappy Boyington, they fly tight, 4-plane fingers of death, each Corsair bristling with 650 cal Brownings and nearly a full ton of fuel and ammunition. Boyington, a chain-smoking former flying tiger with a brawler's temperament and a gambler's grin, leads the formation. His Corsair, number 86, wears no elaborate nose art, just kill tallies and exhaust stains. He's already shot down 14 enemy planes in a few short weeks. Today, he's gunning for more. Down below, Japanese sentries scramble to alert pilots. Sirens wail. 0. Squadrons begin to taxi, but they're too late. The Corsairs dive like predators, using the sun at their backs. Their arrival is a hammer blow. Machine guns blaze, tearing through aircraft still on the ground. Boyington strafes across the runway, his tracers walking straight through a parked bomber, which erupts in a greasy fireball. Another Corsair peels off and guts a fuel truck in a blossom of smoke. Japanese pilots barely manage to get airborne. 1-0 lifts off, wobbling on its climb-out. Boyington spots it, banks hard left, and loops beneath the rising enemy. He times it perfectly. As the 0 levels off, his guns erupt. 600 rounds per minute, multiplied by 6 barrels, focused on a single point of destruction. The 0's tail vanishes. The plane spirals like a broken toy and smashes into the trees. Another Corsair, flown by First Lieutenant Chris McGee, slams a burst into a climbing 0's belly. Pieces of engine cowling peel away mid-air. The pilot bails. His chute opens, but he's drifting straight into a field of burning wreckage. The air is alive with fury. Tracer lines crisscross the sky. Shrapnel from flak bursts buzzes past canopies. A Corsair takes a hit, trailing thick black smoke. The pilot, bloodied but conscious, guides it back toward the coast, skimming the trees. He'll make it. The plane holds. That's what makes the Corsair special. It survives. Even hit. Even scarred. Even when the enemy thinks they've landed a kill, it keeps flying. Its armor plating behind the pilot's seat, self-sealing fuel tanks, and rugged airframe absorb a punishment that would shred a 0 in seconds. The battle rages for only 10 minutes, but in that time, 5 enemy aircraft are destroyed in the air, 7 more on the ground. The Corsairs form up again and disappear westward into the haze. From the ground, the Japanese survivors look skyward, stunned. It wasn't supposed to be like this. The Americans weren't supposed to own the skies. But the Corsair is changing everything. Back at base, Boyington slides from his cockpit, lights a cigarette with a trembling hand, and mutters to no one in particular. These bastards still think this is 1942. He's right. A year ago, 0 pilots fought with contempt. They toyed with wildcats, turned inside of everything, and danced through flak bursts like ghosts. Now, they dive into battle with hesitation, always checking over their shoulder, knowing a Corsair could be stalking them from the sun. The Pacific Air War has shifted, and the aircraft once mocked as unfit to land is now the apex predator of the sky. April 12, 1945, south of Okinawa, 8,000 feet above a wall of flak. A gray sky looms overhead, thick with smoke and the thunder of naval guns. Below, the sea boils with war, destroyers weaving, battleships pounding shore targets, and kamikaze aircraft diving in suicidal arcs. The air is chaos incarnate. Screaming engines, explosions, radio chatter barely audible. Beneath the roar, from the carrier USS Bunker Hill, a swarm of dark blue Corsairs claws into the overcast sky. Among them, Ensign David McMillan, 22, Iowa farm boy, flying his 4th combat sortie in 6 days. His Corsair, nicknamed Betty's Wrath, growls as it climbs, bombs under its wings, guns loaded, nerves stretched taut. Ahead lies Shuri Castle, the heart of Japanese resistance on Okinawa. The Corsairs are no longer just fighters. In the brutal grind of the island campaigns, they've become bombers, escorts, rocket platforms, whatever the mission demands. On Okinawa, that means close air support, dropping bombs on dug-in infantry, strafing bunkers, hunting artillery. It means flying low, too low. McMillan's squadron banks over the coast, following a Marine spotter's radio signal. Targets are marked with red smoke, enemy anti-aircraft batteries hiding in camouflaged bunkers. He tightens his formation, checks his instruments, heart pounding. Hold it, hold, mark. Target's red smoke, 30 degrees left. He dives. The Corsair screams downward, accelerating past 300 mph. Flak blossoms ahead, black and ragged. A shell explodes near his wingtip. Too close. He flinches, but holds the line. He sees it now. The bunker, half buried. Its gun barrel still moving. He presses the release. 2 pound bombs tumble from the wings. The Corsair bucks as the payload drops. Direct hit. The bunker vanishes in a bloom of smoke and shattered earth. McMillan pulls up, hard, engine groaning, vision narrowing as blood rushes from his head. Behind him, another Corsair isn't so lucky. Shrapnel punches through the oil line. Smoke pours from the engine. The pilot calls out. Calm, measured. This is 2-4. Hit bad. Trying to ditch. He doesn't make it. The Corsair hits the water. Explodes. No shoot. McMillan grits his teeth, rage boiling. He flips a switch and dives again, this time to strafe. His guns chatter, carving through another hillside emplacement. Marines on the ground cheer as the tracers rake through enemy trenches. Above, Zeros appear. Kamikazes now, desperate and burning. One plunges straight for a destroyer. McMillan rolls to intercept. He's behind it in seconds. The Zero dances, but the Corsair is faster now, more practiced. Its pilot, more lethal. One burst, then another. The Zero shudders. Its wing detaches mid-air, and the plane tumbles into the sea. The destroyer lives, and so does McMillan. That night, aboard the Bunker Hill, the mood is grim but proud. Corsairs flew over 80 sorties that day. 11 pilots didn't return, but the line held. Marines advanced. Positions fell. The ship's chaplain reads names in the hangar deck. Mechanics wipe tears from grease-streaked faces. War is still war. But the Corsair, once doubted, once dismissed, is now legendary. Its kill ratio in the Pacific stands at 11-1. It has outflown Zeros, shredded Betty bombers, outrun Flak, and clawed victory from chaos across the Pacific, Guadalcanal, Bougainville, Peleliu, Iwo Jima, and now Okinawa. Even the Navy has brought it back to the carriers. The Widowmaker now lands with ease. Pilots learned its quirks. Improved landing gear and tailhooks solved the bounce. The beast has been tamed, but only in landing. In battle, it remains ferocious. Above Okinawa, it has become a symbol, not just of American power, but of endurance, of redemption, of a warplane once mocked by its enemies that now rules their sky.